This broadcast is live.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Oh, beautiful, full spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Patriots and Petticoats, it is my pleasure to welcome you aboard Flight 1776 with service to the United States of America and continuing service to a more perfect union. Federal regulations require that carry-on items are stowed prior to closing the aircraft door. Your items may be placed in an overhead compartment or completely under the seat in front of you. Use caution when placing items in or removing them from the overhead compartment, and let us know if we may assist you. In order to expedite the boarding process, please be seated as quickly as possible after stowing your items and take a moment to review the Constitution and Declaration of Independence located on the device in your pocket. If you are unable or unwilling to perform the functions as described on those documents, please let us know and we will find a more suitable destination for you. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to spending our evening with you. What is up, everybody? Welcome to our fabulous episode of Patriots and Petticoats. We are one Patriot short this evening. Chris is in the process of working some stuff behind the scenes to hopefully make it back on with us very shortly. And then, of course, I have my wonderful co-host Eric with me this evening. I wanted to also say, originally, the plan was to have our resident Legal Eagle Fox on here with us, but he is also having audio technical difficulties. So he might make it back on, he might not.
Sounds conspiratorial.
I know, right? Like who's working the switches on the back?
Who doesn't want this show to happen?
Who doesn't want us to talk? Oh my God. Jake says, start with 2 truths and a lie so I can pull ahead of Joey. MB says, what up? MB, I think just because we're public and you asked to sit next to Eric last time, I think we need a connection between the two of you off of Patriots and Petticoats. Hit him up on Twitter DMs.
We do have a spot open.
Yeah. So I'm going to invite you to either... You can. She has terrible internet. I already know the answer to that question, but you're more than welcome to DM him. Wink, wink. We're gonna just turn this into a dating show at this point. Angela says, "What's up, beautiful humans? Hello, my love. I haven't talked to you in forever. I've missed you so much." Ainsley asked me the other day because okay, I have to say something really quick. PSR has been, a staple in our home for a while now. Like, it has been very important for me. On Sunday mornings, we have breakfast. Ainsley and I listen to the show. She gets to kind of talk. So she asked me the other day, she was like, Mama, why don't we watch PSR on Sunday mornings anymore? And I'm like, they don't have it on Sundays anymore. So
there's no football to talk about, but there will be soon.
I know. That's what I told her. I was like, after the draft, or not draft, but the all the stuff in August, they'll start doing it again, I think. So
she'll be excited to learn we may or may not have mentioned her on tonight's show.
Ooh, that's exciting. She hasn't. We usually listen to your episodes on the drive on the way, like to school or whatever. So she'll hear it tomorrow morning.
She'll be fired up.
Yeah, she will. Joey said Fox is stuck in his fur.
Oh.
He's gonna get his audio working just so he can come back and refute that comment. MB is a smiley face. Angela, love you and your family. Miss you also. Makes me so happy. Okay, let's get started. We are starting late, so I'm going to try to kind of ram through some of this stuff and talk to you guys about some of the goings on. So I had mentioned prior to us starting the show how I wanted to hear your all's thoughts on this Michigan legislation. It is House Bill 4474, was officially signed into law last week. And this criminalizes causing a person to quote unquote feel terrorized, frightened, or threatened. And it can result in 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine for violation, to be found in violation. Now, there's some like fluffy terminology as to what constitutes.
There always
this.
is.
Yeah. It's all based off of feelings. And I know how my Patriots really love when the world operates on feelings because
Nothing's
it's
more
pretty
black and white.
arbitrary. Do what?
Nothing's more black and white than feelings.
Right, exactly. But here's the thing, right? Let's talk about this for a moment. For the longest time, we have been hearing words are violence, right? Like, I feel threatened. This is, I mean, like, you could use the inappropriate pronouns. And if you do it more than 2 times, you can be found in violation of this.
That's too much. That's
Yeah.
not America. That's not even Canada. Like, this is a Trudeau idea.
Yeah. If you guys, there's fireworks and stuff going off from my neighbors, so I apologize
Awesome.
if that's too
Can't
loud.
hear it.
A little bit of freedom in this end of the country. Yeah, so I want to, like, where do we go from here when you have states? Now, personally, I
To the
feel like this
Supreme
is going to
Court?
do what?
You go to the Supreme Court. That's where
Yeah,
it goes.
I mean, I think this is going
And
to
it
be
gets slapped
challenged
down, and it's not
immediately.
even close.
The only problem is first you have to have standing, right? So like there has to be a moment where you have fallen victim, I guess.
Yeah, if
to
they
the-
enforce it, it's going to go to the Supreme Court. If they never
Right.
enforce it, then they never enforce it.
Okay.
How did she get that passed?
Well, I mean, the House and Senate got taken over by Democrats in this last
But how
election.
did? But I mean, who thought that was a great idea? Like, what the fuck? How many Democrats did it take to sit back in their chair and be like, "This makes sense. This is absolutely constitutional." It's a fucking joke. It's a joke of a fucking Congress in Michigan, obviously.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think it's ridiculous.
Gretchen Whitler and her 5 head.
Joey said Gretchen Whitler and her 5 head. So that's the thing. Put the shoe on the other foot. Texas passes a hate speech law. Some Trantifa type says something about the church and gets charged. What do they think of that scenario?
They never consider that they might have these things wielded against them.
Isn't that always so interesting? Like they never believe that law that they pass is ever going to. What if?
This is a no fucking win. Stop passing laws.
Yeah.
That's what scares me about this administration is they act like they're always going to be in power.
This is goddamn kindergarten shit.
Joey, what did you say? You said you went on a tirade about this bill regarding the web design decision. Hi, Chris and Eric from Texas Rangers. Heather,
What's up,
looking
brother?
fabulous as always. Happy 4th of July to you as well.
Pew, pew.
Thank you for coming and seeing
My
us
fuck
this
the king trucker hat won't be here until tomorrow.
Oh, I was so expecting you to have it on.
I'm upset by this. At least it'll be here in time for the fireworks. Great. Should I wear that places where there'll be a bunch of kids?
Yeah. Well, see, I don't know. I tend to like not dress like that.
Yeah, you're a mom though.
That's
Eric's
true.
the fucked up uncle. Fun uncle. Fun uncle, I meant.
Yeah.
Not fucked up.
Fun uncle. The Biden
Yeah,
administration acts like a dictator.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Okay.
act as if nobody's ever going to come in there and look at the books and see what they've been doing.
So
It's troubling.
Well, if they
The-
quickly at the NATO deal, if they can figure out how to get us into World War III, then he can be like, well, we're not going to have an election this time either. Ukraine did it. Why not?
wait, who did that?
Ukraine.
Oh yeah. Hang on, I'm talking to Fox real quick.
I love anytime I get to use the word myopic. It's like soliloquy or kumquat. It's just a great word.
Yeah, Joey's right here. Eric said they just think they'll always be in power because maybe their plans are they will always be in power.
They'll just find ways to do that.
Mm-hmm. Elon Musk is really breaking these NGOs off, these college researchers off, because they can't scrape Twitter with these tweet fucking limitations on.
It's going to be really interesting to watch that actually end up playing out, because that's how Twitter is the best source. It's not
the only
walled
source.
off. Be what?
It's the only source really that you could just scrape like that.
Right.
With an AI bot.
It will be interesting to see how that plays out with him doing the limitations. So I guess maybe we'll talk about that for a moment before we get into any of the legal cases. I told Fox that he could come on via cell phone, so maybe he'll come on that way and do audio only. But let's talk about Twitter real fast. So lots of people, blows my mind the number of people who are like, oh, this is just a way to get us to pay for Twitter. I can't see anything. I can't do anything. And it's like, welcome to the world of not paying for a service and thinking that you should still have the right to like bitch and complain about it on the platform that you're bitching and complaining about. Like,
it's a classic. These are the people who bitch about capitalism on a $1,200 iPhone.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So the reason that he's doing this obviously is it creates limitations, not just for people like you and me, but it creates limitations for these artificial intelligent bots that are crawling and pulling all of this information, this data. And I know, like, when he changed the API stuff, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, certain bots, they were using that API freely. They were doing it for free. So it was creating, make it a quote is an example where, they were able to create that bot for free. But when Elon put the requirement to pay for it into the system, then the bot couldn't sustain anymore because they couldn't afford to pay the bill.
That's where my home run bot went.
Yeah. So there were really cool, really good bots that were kind of sacrificial lambs in this particular situation. But I think that the sad part is that we lost those. But the good part is maybe, Sun Jong Yuk, from just being a really nice woman who wants to find a man in my inbox, won't exist anymore. Like maybe we'll lose some of those. What's up, Fox? You made it in here.
I know, finally.
Love the profile photo.
Yeah, so I guess I just missed the whole part where, the data scraping's a legitimate thing, that was an existential crisis.
It's an industry that needs to be protected.
And Elon knows what he's doing. And he's a genius. He has
Fox hates Elon. In case you guys don't know,
prowess.
he is incredibly anti-Elon.
Elon's the greatest engineering mind. The Cybertruck's the best-selling vehicle of the last decade.
It's amazing.
Fox does not like Elon. Anytime we have like a little group chat with a bunch of our friends, anytime anybody says anything good about Elon, Fox usually goes into a little bit of a meltdown mode sometimes because he hates him so much.
Well,
and I think part of the problem,
an affirmative action hire.
Oh man. Um, MB does not like Elon either. But Cool asked to explain what API means. API is application programming interface, I think is what the 3 letters stand for. And yes, the would it don't bot probably was
Would
caught
it
up in that
dong?
as well.
Yep. Would it dong was a great bot that told you
Yeah.
every home run. It would tell you in which ballparks that would also be a home run. You can follow at Home Run Report. That's doing a great job. That's the home run bot I've switched to. And that's sports talk.
Yeah. Most of these guys like you guys for sports too. That's always really nice as well. If you aren't following them, Patriot Sports Radio, you should go see them there as well.
Do love a conservative sports fan.
So obviously it's temporary, but what does it mean in the long term? I'm curious, how soon do you think they can get it turned around? I mean, as a Blue user, I'll be 100% honest. I have not had any problems this weekend, but I also haven't been on a ton. I think we definitely saw how many people do not touch grass, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we saw a lot of people.
So I have multiple accounts.
Right?
And all my Fox accounts were completely unusable, even though they're verified and I should have been seeing posts.
Wow.
But I couldn't DM, I couldn't look at anything. It was just completely frozen. But one of my other alts, not verified, no problem at all, unlimited use. So whatever it was, it wasn't across the board equally. There's something weird going on there.
Well, I will say, Fox, to that point, I think, and again, I wasn't on a ton this weekend, but I'm pretty sure that happened to Panda, some Asian guy, where it said, we believe this account is suspicious activity. And it didn't tell the account itself. It told people who tried to engage with that account. And so I wonder if maybe that was the case for you, if maybe it was flagging you and just not quite telling you it was flagging you.
Maybe, but like I could still see what was on my accounts.
Yeah.
It's just I couldn't use that account to interface with anyone else. But I did see whatever Twitter did, they ended up DDoSing themselves the way they whatever changes they made to where Twitter was just creating all these nonsensical queries every time people logged in. And it was, I think that, I don't know what the tech babble speak is, but took up bandwidth or something.
Right.
Help cause problems.
I also think too, and I mean, this is just conspiracy theory. I don't know this, but I also saw that there was something that had to do with Twitter utilizing Google servers, like for their like cloud-based services or something. And Elon refused to renew the contract for that. And he was trying to get as much of the platform off of Google servers as possible. So there was some stuff about that, but it's hard when you're talking contracts and stuff and Elon like to get much information. So there's that too.
Well, he's not paying any of his contractors right now. He's not paying rent. He's got a lot of payment issues, but I believe that.
Well, and I've said this before, and I know I this has been kind of my conspiracy theory throughout this transition period. I think that what he's going to do with a lot of these contractors, with a lot of these real estate holdings that had been negotiated prior to him taking over, I think that he's just going to let them fall by the wayside and file bankruptcy through Twitter and then start clean with X Corp.
It's a possibility.
I mean, it would be smart on his part. Why wouldn't you do that? Why would you bring all of that, a lot of those contracts he's unable to get out of short of not paying them? then it forces them to close those contracts out due to non-pay.
So we're going to allow him to go to a public institution, the court, so he doesn't have to pay the contracts that he voluntarily signed and knew of when he purchased Unity. My God, Heather, this sounds like something we're going to talk about this evening.
I'm just saying, like, in the corporate world, now you would have to, were all of those holdings and contracts disclosed? There's a lot of back end stuff that I would be concerned about. I don't disagree with you. I don't think it's the right thing to do, but it's an allowable thing that could happen. But okay, I don't want to take up like the whole show talking about that. So what you are here for, Fox, and what I know Chris and Eric want to touch on, let's talk about the case that we did not get to during happy hour for sure. I want to talk about the free speech case out of Colorado, or well, First Amendment case. I don't want to call it free speech but I mean, that is what it is. So originally I covered this on something. It was either Morning Show or Liberty Happy Hour. Actually, I think it's been like well over a year ago or maybe more, where this woman, nobody had ever come to her and asked her to make a website. She preemptively asked if she would be forced to make a website if it did not agree with her religious presuppositions. And am I understanding this case correctly?
Yeah, so this is a continuation of the whole, you got to bake the cake
Right.
for the gays case out in Colorado, because they passed an anti-discrimination bill, and they created this special commission where it's just a witch hunt if you don't do what the left wants you to do. But with her, she has a web design service, and with what she was doing, she wanted to make private websites for weddings. She had not begun to do that because she was concerned that the law would criminalize, her beliefs. So what she sued to enjoin the law. So you sue to say this is going to violate my rights if it's applied to me. So
Right.
you get that protection, and like you don't have to go and violate the law and then end up with criminal charges in order to challenge it. You can go and say, well, this will criminalize me, so I'm going to sue before they effectively can. And that's how she got into court.
And so the justices ruled that she does not have to design the website. They do not have to bake the cake. They don't have to design the website. That's the ruling, correct? Oh, I think I lost you.
What did Elon do?
Okay, we can hear you now.
You said enough keywords. Once you said truck, that's when he said, we got to shut this guy down.
Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Shut down.
Well, Heather, I think before my audio cut out, you were talking.
Yeah, what I was saying is the ruling from the justices is essentially you do not have to bake the cake. You do not have to design the website if it infringes on your First Amendment freedom of religion. Your faith cannot be compelled, essentially.
Yeah, and the way they'll label it is the government can't force you. They can't alter your expressive content. They can't force you to think. They can't force you to take opinions, even if the government, and this is language in the ruling, even if the government thinks your opinions are misguided, likely to cause anguish or grief, they can't go and restrict you from saying those opinions. And they didn't really talk a whole lot about this in the context of religious beliefs. but you can see it throughout the cases Gorsuch mentions. You know, because of freedom of speech when it pertains to your religious beliefs, you know, they can't force you to say the Pledge of Allegiance or salute the flag.
Right.
Just like they can't force you to say, you know, 2 dogs and a cat is a marriage, or that Elon is a successful engineer.
He just can't help himself.
I can't.
So that's what about civil litigation? What does this do to that? If I say that it created emotional damage, can I still take that to court?
Jesus.
That's kind of a whole different realm, because here what's happening is the state of Colorado has a law where anybody can come and sue you, and then they also have a regulatory body that can penalize you if you don't conform to the mob's demands. But what this is saying is that mob can't force you, you know, to violate your conscience or to change your opinions in such a way to where it would violate your conscience. I don't know. Well, in the employment context, it's completely different, because that's if you hire a person and you discriminate against them because of their orientation or beliefs, you fire them or you don't hire them. That's completely different. But I don't think going forward any like potential customer is going to have a claim, you know, that you scarred me for life because you hurt my feels.
Well, if you lived in Michigan.
Well, yeah, logically though, when we get to that area, it's, well, who really is suffering the harm? If I'm going to go into the cake bakers and say, you know, bake me a cake for a gay wedding, and the guy is
as
going
fast
to
as you
say,
can.
no, yeah, I'm violating his beliefs, he's violating mine. Who's really harming who? The answer is just go somewhere else and stop harassing people and clogging up the courts.
Or bring back duels. One of the two.
Hey, Fox,
Or
real
bring
quick,
back
what
duels.
are your thoughts as far as politically? So, do you believe legally they ruled right, or do you believe they overstepped?
On this case, I think it's the
Yeah.
right decision.
Just from a pure nonpartisan, just on its legal merits.
Yeah, on this case, I like the ruling. I hope it puts a stop to the crusades on people who
Don't need to go there to buy the cake. They could go next door. They're just going there to be a bitch.
I think the rainbow crowd needs to be told to shut the fuck up and stop harassing everybody who doesn't do what they want.
The mafia. Okay, what's our next case, Heather?
But I have one more follow-up
yep.
question for Fox on this one. Fox, do you think that, because you're starting to see some circumvention in some of this, do you see this? You mentioned the workplace, for example. The burden of proof to suggest that an employer did not hire someone solely based off of their sexual orientation or the, you know, whatever.
If they're a furry, something like that.
Well,
you found out an applicant was a furry, that might sway your.
What's really funny right now is that Eric doesn't even know the inside joke. So that makes this all the fucking better.
I just know it's a button I can push.
Eric,
Joey started this.
I'll inform Eric. Eric, we live in a confusing time where people don't know
I
if
concur.
they have a PP or if a JJ, and they don't know where to go to potty. So there's some people out there who think like if you like anime, you're this weird swinging sexual degenerate who
Whoa!
wears
You like
NCAA
anime?
outfits, and that's what the
I mean,
furries are. And I am not
yeah,
a
you
furry.
guys
See,
dress up like Pikachu
I-
and stuff.
no, I don't do that. We don't do that.
Oh, this is great. This took such a turn that I'm so excited about. Except Fox is never going to come on the show again.
Oh. I thought I was making him feel at home with some good-natured ribbing.
Oh, man, that's great. Oh, wait,
Hold
hold on.
up.
Fox
Something
left.
happened here.
You
Yeah.
got to use pronouns in Michigan.
Okay, are you there, Fox?
I'm here. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I misheard Fox. I think I misheard you, brother. Let me get this question because it's an important one.
Akira's a good film.
Did you say you like anime?
Yeah.
Well, look at his profile
God, we were
picture.
so close. I mean, we were right there. Right there.
I was
I
getting
won't
to the
hold it
point
against you.
where when we discuss furries, they get to the rooftop interview, and they get the quick kick off the building.
Oh,
old quick
man.
kick.
But Fox, back to, because I do want to move through I know we've got limited time frame left.
I don't have to work tomorrow. We can run a little late.
Oh, okay, good. So
It's America's birthday.
how do you see this playing out? Because that's where everyone started going, was towards like workplace, saying that you don't have to hire somebody because of those things. I mean, that's the fear tactic, right? Like, I don't believe that that's going to be the case, but what do you think about that? Because you had this decision along with the affirmative action decision. So kind of blending those two in together.
Yeah, and the dissent in this case really does want to commingle the whole private sector hiring with compelled speech,
Right.
even though they're two completely separate things. On the front of hiring and firing people, I think it's always going to be there, and that's there to stay, like it or not. But I don't know. We'll have to see.
Okay, so let's talk about the affirmative action case. What do you think about that ruling? Now, Ketanji Jackson Brown had to recuse herself because she's on the Harvard board, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is really funny because I'm sure she did not want to have to recuse herself.
I don't know when they heard. Let me see. I don't know if she was on the court when they heard it.
She wasn't, I don't think.
But that case, the ruling is very interesting, and it's a very heated series of opinions, because you have your majority opinion, and then everybody and their mother wrote concurrences and dissents, and of course everybody's arguing with the dissent. That case is a little bit more nuanced because it's not throwing out affirmative action. It's throwing out affirmative action as Harvard and University of North Carolina were implementing it. And essentially what they were doing was using race at multiple levels of their admissions program, to where like the final decision on a candidate would be whether or not they could pay for school, what their race was, if they were an athlete or if they were legacy. But like throughout the documentation in the lower courts, Harvard couldn't define what race was. It's like they had no definition of Hispanic. They really didn't have a definition of what constituted an Asian student. And like there was no way to separate East Asian students from South Asian students and vice versa. So what the court really did was say, like, look, you guys have no objective criteria whatsoever that makes any sense. You guys are like making up definitions on the fly. And you can't do that because like right now, pretty much the standard is you can't use race as a stereotype, and you can't negatively impact race with your standards. And what they were finding is also funny is the whole race-based admissions program negatively affected certain groups over others. So that was a strike against them.
So on this case, do you think that they got it right? Did they go far enough? Did they go too far?
So Thomas's concurrence writes that essentially there's still ways for affirmative action to be legal, but nobody knows how that would look like, what that would look like because of the legal standard that they now have. And part of that goes back to like a very complex history with affirmative action in the Supreme Court, starting in the 60s and 70s, where the initial opinions, there was no majority, there was no court majority. So it was just a bunch of concurring opinions. And then over time, they started narrowing down what was acceptable when it came to discriminating based off of race. And about 20 years ago, they settled on this idea that you have to have a state interest that can be measured like with objective criteria. You have to articulate, the connection between the means and the purposes. And then you also can't affect other racial groups negatively as a result. And then part of the decision was also that the Supreme Court all along has said affirmative action is going to have to end at some point.
So I was going to ask. So when they first started the affirmative action, the idea in the courts, do you think everybody knew like this is probably not right? I mean, we have to do something. We need to do something because it's not correct right now. But we're going to have to come back and look at this, or this is not really constitutional, but we got to try something, or how did that work?
It was very pragmatic, just like that. And the Thomas's concurrence is really good answering that question, where it's really like we passed the 14th Amendment and the Equal Protection Clause. And then for about 100 years, the Supreme Court put out a bunch of really shitty decisions when it came to race in the United States. And nobody lived up to the principles of the laws that we had on the books. And then it just became this mess to where to correct these wrongs, you have all these bad laws come into place and pile on top of each other. The good news is the court foresaw what a disaster this would be 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, they said, hopefully this doesn't exist 25 years from now. And this seems to be a nail in the coffin and say, we just need to get away from this. Although, practically speaking, like you're not going to prohibit the use of race in admissions. Like we all know that's what they're going to continue to do. It's just how do you prove it at this point?
That was my question. Aren't these universities just going to operate as if it's still there?
Yeah, and I'm there's probably some way within the whole new legal criteria and how to get away with it where you could say like, well, Harvard's objectives were that they wanted to promote leadership opportunities and stuff, which justified their affirmative action admissions. And the court said, well, there's no objective criteria for that. I can envision Harvard coming back and saying like, we want to make sure we reach out to these demographics in the United States that constitute, this percentage of the economy in these regions where we don't historically have a lot of students, and then sort of get around the requirements by doing shit like that.
So what do you just stop and you can just stop like testing? You can stop the ACT, SAT, and then they just write a how I'm oppressed essay to the school, and then they just get the most oppressed.
Did I cut
there's gonna be
out? Well, that's one way they're getting around it. And the example I point to all the time is what the University of California system did, and of course it's changed numerous times since. But in order to get around being sued, what they did is they created a system where they weighted GPA and your SATs differently. So you'd get a ton of points for having high SATs or a high SAT score. But then if you had a high GPA, what it would do is it would throw you off and then give you negative points. So they
Of course.
essentially created a system where if you were a perfect student, you didn't get a perfect admission score. So there's things they can do like that to where they get around it.
It's like an anti-meritocracy.
Yeah.
Fox, are you
Pretty
playing
much.
with a container of Tic Tacs right now?
I thought it was aspirin.
I thought it was one of those popper fidget stress reliever things.
I have one of those.
That does not surprise me with how much you're clicking and shaking your container.
I have a rubber band on the table that I just fidget with the entire time I'm podcasting. Otherwise, I mess with wires and it drives Chris nuts.
I click pens. Like I'm constantly clicking pens. To the point where it drives Ainsley insane. I'm sorry, go ahead, Fox.
Oh, I don't have anything else to add.
So we have affirmative action and we have the Colorado case. Both you believe so far was good rulings. It could be nonpartisan. It's all everybody's going to say Republican, obviously, but
yeah, I think both of the cases we discussed so far, good rulings. That's what the court should have done all along. I of course wish that there was no dissent, but I think the court did the right thing on those two cases for sure.
Do you think that certain schools will implement or find a way to implement a more, like, go the opposite direction? Okay, this ruling has been made. Now I have the ability to truly do a fully objective. That's not true, Jake. A truly objective entrance process where schools will say, okay, being forced to hit quotas has, made our university weaker. Now we can do completely blind and take the best of the best. Do you think you'll see schools do that now that they're not beholden to a discriminatory system?
No, because there's no incentive for them to do that. They get too much. There's too many negatives associated with that, with reputation and bad press. Whereas if you have all these programs that cater to every minority group, U.S. News, World Reports, whatever they call themselves now, promotes you to the top of having these special programs and how you're so good because, you love X, Y, and Z groups and you cater to them.
Right.
I would have to ask, what's the incentive of a school in doing that? And I just, in 2023, the United States, I don't see any incentive for a school saying like, yeah, we're going to actually reverse the clock and have competent people graduate so they can be
Right.
engineers at Twitter and not fuck it up.
Yeah. Lexi says, I wish I could be friends with Clarence Thomas. I do too. That clip that I think it was Rudy put it in our group chat earlier today where he said it was that clip of of Clarence Thomas and he was talking about Joe Biden. He's like, I have no clue what he was talking about. You're supposed to look interested or like you understand what they're saying. But Joe Biden did look pretty ridiculous in that clip for sure. Heather just goes to other screens because we're boring. No, actually, I was getting rid of screens so that I could prepare for Two Truths and a Lie, Jake. That's what I was doing. Joey said he's combing his fur. I'll lay off the furry jokes now. Of course, there was dissent. There's a justice on the bench who wouldn't be there were it not for affirmative action. I would argue
Yeah.
more than one. I
Well,
believe Elena Kagan is only there because she's a female, honestly.
it's essentially Thomas's story that he understands that he is himself as well. So
For
that's
everybody
not-
who is tuning in right now, Chris and Eric will likely be back, or at least I hope they will. They've been having some internet issues tonight, so we will patiently await their return to the show shortly. Oh, I wanted to show something real fast and get your take on it. Hang on. Oh, nope, that's not what I want. Cancel. Hang on. There's what I want. It's so funny the way that these things work. Window. I think it's this one, maybe. Yes. Okay. Did you see this where it says
Dear God.
words spoken by each justice in their first 8 arguments? The number of more words that are said by women than men. How insane is that?
Well, what's crazy is the disrespect from the bench. Because when you're arguing a case at an appellate level, you're time limited, and the justice interrupting you to go on some fucking scree, detracts from what you're able to say and argue. So, like, if I'm fielding a question from one justice and then, Ketanji decides that she wants to just bitch about something for 5 minutes, I can't respond to Justice Thomas, and I just lost time, and I'm here, not able to make an argument at all.
What were you guys talking about? The Clarence Thomas 96 words, Ketanji Brown 11,000 whatever.
Yeah,
that's fucking awesome. That's by design.
What do you mean?
I lose it. You there?
Yeah, you're back.
Was he saying that's by design?
No, he was just talking about the disrespect on the court, like how hard it becomes if you're going to be like that for you to make a valid argument.
I see.
Yeah, it's disrespectful. I mean, you're in the position of a judge. You're not there to make conversation or to argue the case with the other justices on the bench. You're there to really narrow any questions remaining you have of the parties. And if there's a question that you need answered that hasn't been, and in appellate law, there's really no legitimate use of all that talking by a judge. It's just they want to hear themselves talk at that point, or they want to argue the point with another justice. And it's incredibly unfair to the parties who are, the clients are paying their attorneys tens of thousands of dollars just to be there at the Supreme Court, to be interrupted by a judge.
They are not happy, I'm sure, about their internet situation right now. Tex says more, Heather, you can have as much of me as you want, Tex. Eric said, we'll be back shortly. Technical difficulties. Bronze does everything. All I see is an anime thing with what seems to be a communist hat or whatever. I don't know what's going on. Hi there, guys. Hi, Bronze. Good to see you here. This is Fox. He is an attorney, so he remains anonymous so that it doesn't impact his career, but he can give us good insight on the legal things that take place in the country. Jake said, Obama claimed he wouldn't have got into Harvard without affirmative action. So he probably wouldn't have been president without affirmative action. So all his appointees were appointed because of affirmative action. That's actually controversial, but it's pretty accurate. I mean, for him to come out and say, Michelle and I only went to college because of affirmative action, what does that say? So let's talk about that side of it for a moment, if we can. It's not necessarily the legal side, but certainly the cultural side, where, God, it was like Twitter was burning down that day because the arguments were being made that Black people will never succeed. I think Erica Marsh said that, right?
She's suspended.
Yeah.
Can't say that. I don't know what it is. Is she a bot or something? I don't know. Somebody called her out or something.
Oh, I can't hear him, Eric. What did he say?
He said somebody called her out, or possibly she's a bot.
So I know that Dennis impersonated her this week. So that could be a contributing factor to that as well. But she was not a troll. She came out and explicitly said it's not parody. Black people will never get anywhere without affirmative action. And it was just like, do you hear that coming out of your mouth? Like, do you understand how racist you sound right now?
Sounds? Yeah.
And
it's like assuming they can't find an internet connection, or they don't know how to vote, or they don't have identification. Like, these are horrible fucking assumptions,
We're all fucking Americans. Jesus Christ.
It's the poor kids and the white kids slip again.
Yeah.
It's like, and I hate, nobody says more racist things than a liberal who they phrase it in the terms of like, well, this is what they would say. You know what they'll say? They'll call you this. You're the only one saying these words. I hate
it's really true. It's really bad. I told this story on a podcast that I just recorded this week, but I'm not going to say who said this because, well, I say it on the show, but my aunt has been in town because of my mom's surgery, and my stepbrother was sitting next to me, and my stepbrother was next to me. He's Black, and my aunt is across the counter from me. And so like this dialogue is taking place, and my aunt points at him and she says, you would never succeed as a Black man in America if it wasn't for this. And I was sitting there and I was just like, do you hear yourself right now? Did you hear how racist the statement that just came out of your mouth was? And of course, my stepbrother is sitting next to me and he looked at me and I'm of course grinning ear to ear at this point because I'm about to fucking pounce. And he looked at me and he was like, yeah, I'm fucking out of here. I'm not even going to stay here for this. And he gets up and leaves the room. But I was just like, how would that, like, and I wish we had a Black person in the room right now to talk about this, but how do you think it makes them feel to constantly hear from the white person? Because that's the only people I see saying this.
Yes.
How does it feel to hear from the white people that you won't succeed without our favorable treatments?
These are all just human beings with access to the same shitty public schools we all have. We're all just people. I mean, they're not, it's not like some separate area where there's not internet.
Right.
Black Americans, they do all the same things as white Americans. It's okay. You don't have to make special laws or drive, buses around to pick people up. They know when the elections are. Everybody, we're all just human beings trying to survive each administration.
Why do you think they keep voting Democrat? Like, why do you think that they are still compelled to vote for people? I don't
Who give
understand
them
that.
shit because that's the easy way. They get benefits. They get perks.
Because
They get the
Republicans are
race base.
racist.
Well, it's not even that. It's
It's a whole bunch of
they're
shit.
different.
It's basically, bad PR for Republicans.
Yeah, it's they get every incentive they want, and if you don't give it to them, then they get to say you're racist. So they hold all the cards. They get preferential treatment. They're treated with kid gloves. They're infantilized, but at the same time, like, who cares if somebody's being demeaning when you get whatever job you want. Everybody walks on eggshells when they're around you because of the laws that stack up in your favor.
Do you think they enjoy that infantilization, though? Like, do you think that that's something that
Enough of them do.
It's a damn shame.
If they didn't, why are they voting for them?
Yeah, it's true.
Speaking
Braun
of,
said, "Hey there. Hi. Yeah, man." Jake said, "Is Erica Marsh your aunt, Heather?" No. My aunt's actually nice. I know that sounds crazy, even though she told me to find some homeless people to pay to work for us for a day. But, apart from that, yes, she's a nice person. It's like Joe Biden saying poor kids are just as good as rich kids. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like people saying, depending on the government, you're never going to succeed. So let the government help you and you just for forever. It's kind of like that, but when people tell you, like, you can't do crap because of your race, it's just a straw man argument.
Yep.
It's the goddamn education system.
Speaking of the
Ron's, welcome to
infantilization,
Patriots and Petticoats. We're really glad to have you tonight.
my least favorite thing about Kamala is how she always talks to us like we're 6. I always feel like I'm sitting crisscross applesauce when she's explaining things to me.
Right.
It's
Oh, God.
That's probably because she doesn't know what she's talking about herself.
But the passage of time and how so much time has passed in the passage of time. Joey said, soft bigotry of low expectations meets the narcissistic sub-disorder of white savior. Yes.
Yep.
Andrew said, probably nice, but doesn't think much. She's actually quite brilliant. It's just a matter of thinking. Joey's point is right on cue. It's that whole white savior thing. I come from a life of privilege. I think that the choices I'm making and the things that I am doing are going to help you. Like, I think I'm here to save you, or that I'm going to save you.
Yeah. And for those who are on Liberty Happy Hour, we got to see that mindset creep in with all the Northeastern people who, thought immigration's the greatest thing on earth, and that, these people in Boston can get to decide what's best for America and everyone else, and that a large segment of our political populace is like that, where
Right.
it's on them to solve all the problems on earth, and only they can do it. Only the white girl can save the black community, or like only Greta Thunberg can go and save the world from the environment, man.
Right. You still there, Fox?
I'm still here.
Okay.
Sorry, Heather.
No, don't apologize, guys. I know it sucks.
Did you hear the part where I said Joey was smart?
Where you said what?
Where I said Joey's really smart. Look at that comment.
No.
Soft bigotry of low expectations meets the narcissistic subdisorder of white savior. That's high intellect shit right there.
What does that
Yeah.
mean?
I'll be right back, you guys.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
All right, Fox. What was the next court case? What else was going on?
I think the last one, Heather, was the student loan case.
Yeah, student loan case. Go ahead. Let's talk about that one.
Yeah. This one, I see where the court's coming from. I don't necessarily agree with them that much, but it goes together with another decision they issued last week in an EPA case, which I didn't read because I don't have the time. But so here, it looks, I want to give them a favorable reading. But at the same time, you got to realize, like, the courts, they're not perfect people. They're not the greatest people. Sometimes they're not the smartest. And while they ought to be looking at these as consistent legal decisions across the board, you don't see that often in practice. What it looks like is they're trying to right the ship, but I think, and I'll go into this later, on what they did with the student loans is I think they lost their focus on what was really important. I'll just kind of give a brief overview. So in 1965, they passed the Higher Education Act, which allowed the Secretary of Education to cancel or reduce loans under certain limited circumstances. And that there's a list of what those circumstances are. After 9/11, Congress passed an act that later became permanent in 2003, which allowed the secretary to waive, quote, any statutory or regulatory provision applicable as deemed necessary during a national emergency. And what they did with that was develop a scheme to forgive certain recipients $10,000 and then certain recipients of like Pell Grants up to $20,000 of forgiveness, with the justification being all the health emergencies and the economic woes during COVID. Well, the court took that, and there's sort of three different way, or a couple different ways to look at it, is saying, you know, did they exceed the mandate given by Congress? Like, did they go too far? How far did they go? But the court touches on that, in that they disagree that the secretary would have ever had the ability to go that far. The difficulty I have with this decision is, who is the court to decide, you know, oh, we don't like what we accept that Congress can give the secretary discretion, but this dollar mark is too much, whereas, you know, another program they can do. And you see this with, like, okay, on anything regarding gun regulations with the ATF, the secretary can just unilaterally write off the whole pistol brace industry and cause economic damage for that, and the court won't even give a shit about the economic impact of that. Whereas here, they want to hyper focus on this $430 billion price tag. And I think it's misguided because of who the plaintiff in this case is, which is a Missouri corporation. Missouri operates something called MOHELA, which is a processor of loans. So the Department of Education gives them the loans, and they essentially process all the accounts, and then they charge the Department of Education a fee. So everybody across America who's paying student loans is paying Missouri, and Missouri's raking in bank doing this, and it's subsidizing their entire college system. And they were bitching about, if they forgive these loans, it's going to hurt the state of Missouri's ability to send our own kids to school, because we're subsidizing the living fuck out of all our students off of everyone else's backs to the tune of $80 million a year. And for me, I don't like this fact pattern because it's one, it's highly political. Two, we have a state that has this scheme going on where they're taking money from people across the nation and keeping it in Missouri. Like, that doesn't seem right to me at all. But then we have a court that is giving themselves the authority to decide, you can have discretion, but we're going to create an imaginary borderline number as to when you've been given too much discretion. I don't see any principle in that. I think this wasn't a great decision. I don't know. I mean, the $10,000 forgiveness is a stretch as well. But I'm not going to lie, I mostly see this as a political disaster.
So, Fox, let me ask you a question. I'm really fast. I'm sorry. You saw Joe Biden. I mean, they've already been working behind the scenes on this to find a secondary way to kind of move around this and say, okay, you won't let us do it through this avenue. We're going to do it through this one.
They've already sent out an email and created 3 different programs, which apparently the secretary does have discretion, and that relates to payment plans and when interest kicks back in. Now, things have changed. Part of this is contingent upon declaration of a national emergency.
Right.
And a side note on that is the court goes into this diatribe about how the national emergency is ending, which, okay, yes, I get it.
The ramifications from it are not.
Yes, of course, we all agree. But who is the court to decide what's a legitimate national emergency and how long it lasts? Like, that's another part of this case where they just gave themselves authority to say what's a legitimate national emergency or how long it can last.
We've been in a national emergency since I was born, it feels like. So if I take this court case, and this, because I may be wrong, Fox, and I want you to correct me if I am. The Supreme Court says you can't spend this much money. You're going to have to go, and it's going to have to go through Congress, and it's going to have to pass on its merits. Is that correct? Like, they can still do it. If there was a law already written that could get this done, wouldn't they have just used that law? They wouldn't be trying to sneak in back doors. They would just use the law that they're allowed to use. But there isn't.
Well, so the court sort of addresses that, where they say the evidence that the secretary doesn't have the power to modify and make these changes is that they've never used it before. But I don't see that as a legitimate argument. There's plenty of powers that government has that have never been used before. but they're there. Impeachment is one of those. And just because you don't impeach everybody doesn't mean, or just because you go 100 years without impeaching anybody doesn't mean you can't. Now, this is, with this case, with the laws on the books and how everything works, it's highly contextual. So I don't think we're going to see a repeat of anything again, unless if there's a new national emergency that's announced. But there's still a lot of discretion that the Secretary of Education already has, that the court hasn't struck down to where they can modify things. And the Biden administration has done what I would consider a lot of good modifications to how student loans work. And part of that is just the private contractors who are doing the process.
Do we lose them?
I think so.
That was good stuff.
He really lends a lot of credibility to the show.
We'll go through chats while we wait for him to recover. Braun said, "You mean everything that got that girl that got popular like 7 years ago saying, how dare you?" Yes, that's her. That's going to live in infamy. Yeah, for sure. Do Texas, LA v. Biden admin on the border? Ooh, that's a good one. Saying the states don't have standing. That's really interesting. And Fox, I do want to hear your take on that, but I'm going to go through the rest of these chats real fast while I'm doing it, and then we'll come back to it.
Sounds good.
Okay, that clip about the pistol brace where the guy actually pulled out a gun to demonstrate what the thing is was funny as hell.
Yes.
And how stupid it sounded. It's like every time Congress has a hearing on guns and they're like, and it's semi-automatic, automatic rifle firing and whatever they can say to make it sound as scary as possible and know fuck all nothing of what they're talking about. Lexi said, wow, the student loan case is interesting. And while I'm glad, it sounds like it was a bad decision. And Braun said, have a happy 4th of July. Yay. Yes. Happy 4th of July. Thanks for stopping by. If you're leaving, if you're staying, whatever, thanks for coming by. Okay, Fox. To Lexi's question, the Texas v. Biden administration on the border, saying that the states don't have standing. The states technically are the people. Like, that's what they are. And they're the ones footing the bill for all of this. Why wouldn't the state? This reminds me of during the election when all of those attorney generals signed on to challenge the election results. And the Supreme Court said the states don't have standing. Well, the states represent the people. So how does that work? Like, why do the states not have standing in those situations?
I have no idea, clown world. I mean, you can go and look on paper and see what the court has said about the standing of a state to challenge election practices versus they're losing hundreds of millions of dollars in this corporate scheme they have. The question is there any coherent principle that the normal person can understand? And the answer to that is no, not really. Like it really doesn't make any sense. What one would think that if your state as an entity, and look, I don't buy any of the election challenge lawsuits. I think they're all retarded. They were all ridiculous.
But hold on. I'm going to argue with you on this, Mr. Attorney Man. So I live in the state of Indiana. Our electors went towards Donald Trump, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the state of Georgia, due to a legal decision, mail-in ballots were permitted through a judiciary decision. It was written in I think a civil case, resulted in that state allowing the drop mail-in ballots. not absentee ballots, but mail-in ballots. It never went through their legislature. It was not a state law. And so you had states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and I think Arizona, maybe, and New Mexico. You had states that circumvented their election laws by going through their executive and their judicial branches to circumvent essentially state law. And that disenfranchised the states who abided by the law or disenfranchised their voters. Why would that not give those states standing to say, you disenfranchised our voters? These votes that were counted illegally should not count.
Mm-hmm.
So the sort of legal answer there would be, you're a citizen of Indiana. What happens in Georgia does not affect you. Now, what happens at the Electoral College, which is a political body making a political decision, sure, that affects you.
Right.
But what happens in Georgia is the business of Georgia. And then there's also the question of, what happened in Georgia? Was it major flagrant violations of the law? Were they minor? Were they mere technical? Things of that nature. And I understand the decision to say, these are political decisions to be made by the Electoral College and Congress when they count the electors. At the same time, I understand the theoretical argument of, what if actual massive fraud took place and overrode the election? Well, then what's the recourse? There's the answer to that is there is no recourse. Yeah.
So what you mean
Sucks.
we don't live in a constitutional republic anymore?
Well, never did.
Well, that was a black pill I wasn't ready to take tonight. Thanks, Fox.
If I told you, we never did.
What if I told you it didn't exist? So then who has standing? How do you fight that? You said there's no recourse. Do we just have to swallow it?
Pick up arms.
Elections are
Not you, Fox.
Well, elections are creations of statute. So it's whatever your state says, who has standing. And in some states, any random person can challenge an election. In others, it's only the candidates. And then you have to bring the suits within certain time frames, et cetera, or prove certain things. I guess Carrie Lake thinks that she can make whatever claim she wants to say and then pop into court whenever. But it's sort of the way it works is you lose. Like, good luck next time. It sucks to suck. And that's just the inherent nature of the political process is the rule of law can't, decide everything.
Yeah.
There's gonna be times where it really is the mob drives the outcome of the event.
Ask Budweiser how that's working out for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are our 3 cases. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
So what's the next recourse after you can't do anything through the legal system, Heather?
Pick up arms.
Is that the Second Amendment? Is that where that comes into play?
France. You become
We're not
free.
allowed to. We're
is
not
what
allowed to
happens
say.
at that
Are you
point.
saying that we're not allowed to say that?
No, I'm not. You can say anything you want
Oh,
to. This
because
is
you were like that. You were like, shh.
Oh, he was just.
Well, part of it is on our side of the aisle, people just like to bitch without ever becoming involved in the community or, you know, getting people elected, finding candidates.
But I fired off all the hashtags. I've done enough.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of people actually think that's all you need to do. Which is frustrating for someone like me who's been in this in real life for many, many years, where it's like all these people who bitch all the time, they don't show up to vote. They tell me they don't vote. They're not there at the county committee meetings. They're not, going to council meetings at the local level. They're not running for office themselves. And a big problem in politics across the board is, we've adopted this political rock star mentality of everyone who runs for office. And, Thomas Mason's going to save us. Rand Paul is going to save us. Donald Trump's going to save us. Clarence Thomas is going to save us. It's all up to this one guy in office who holds the power and has a secret plan, and I don't have to do anything other than watch Fox News or tweet online. And then we complain when shit gets hard, even though we've never even tried.
I think that is the tide's changing though, Fox. If you look at the local school board level, that's where you got to start.
Yeah, but I agree. Like, people need to be out there and doing more on that front.
We can't bitch about the schools and not go to the fuck and go to sleep or be asleep at the wheel. That's how it happened.
Completely agree. But I've also seen this happen in waves multiple times in my life, where in about 2 years everybody will have forgotten.
Because it's a hassle to show up on Wednesday nights to that fucking school board meeting and get bitched at. Fuck that. I wrote one term.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's understandable too. And I don't, you don't need to be like 24/7 involved for multiple years to be effective. It's just, I think people like, especially on the right, like to complain, even though they know they'll never do anything about it, just because they want to complain. And
it's very apparent that that's happened. If you just open your eyes and look around and be like, oh shit, what?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you see that a lot. I mean, especially if you actually go to those things, right? Like, only if there's outrage does anybody ever show up. They don't show up for the really quiet meetings where they make all the decisions that piss you off 2 months later.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Or 2 years later.
If you'd have been there in the first place, this wouldn't have happened, right?
Yep.
So you think COVID woke everybody up, Fox? Kids coming home and learning on their laptops and parents with their heads on their shoulders going, what?
I don't know.
Me neither.
Because
that's it.
Like, my whole take during COVID was that it was great for students to be at home to get them away from the public education system. But then for like some reason, the right took the stance that they needed to reopen the schools, which like I never understood. If your enemy is the public schools, why do you want the kids going back to the public schools?
I can explain why.
Yeah,
because they've been a daycare service for years and years, our whole lives.
Yeah,
not a daycare service. You know what I mean, though. Like, it works all with our work week. It all flows together.
Yeah, they're not out gathering berries and chopping wood and socializing. That's the only socializing you really get.
And if you're not trying to if you're not learning how to fix a fucking heater and air conditioner, I can't fucking help you. Like, I can't teach unless it's mechanical. You want to read schematics? Okay, but I can't. I don't understand all the English and punctuation.
You're not going to break down the War of 1812 for them?
Yeah, I mean, we could do history, but that's easy. That's in a book. It's all the other shit.
Pythagorean theorem, shit like that.
What were you going to say, Heather?
No, I was just going to say, like, it made it hard in multiple fronts because I had a new baby. I had a daughter, like, and she had just entered high ability, which was like extra work, and trying to manage all of that while still maintaining a full-time job. It was hard. Like it was, I'm not saying it was hard for me. It was hard for my daughter. Like she was having a hard time learning. She was having a hard time focusing. She was having a hard time grasping concepts that were coming in. And I'm like pumping breast milk, trying to teach her the Pythagorean theorem. Like it was not good for home lives.
No.
It was not good for kids. Um and socialization. Like thank God I live in a state that did not shut down, meaning throughout all of COVID, Ainsley never missed a gymnastics practice except for when she caught COVID. The rest of the
Nice.
time, she was able to go to the gym. So she did get some of that socialization. But I think, and Fox, I don't know if you have kids, we've never talked about this, but the damage that was done mentally to children is a lot. Like it,
Oh, I see it every fucking day when I go to some place where like a Gen Z person works. They're the dumbest people on the planet.
yeah, I mean, and so that was my daughter at 8 years old whenever all of this went down. So imagine your 12-year-old where their critical, like social functioning personalities were being like molded at that time. And you talk about how shitty digitalization of our children has been over the course of the last, that amplified it by like tenfold. The only way they were communicating with anyone was through digital media.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just
And that
society
amplified.
blockers.
Yeah, that amplified all the problems we had with technology too. And I mean, it's one reason why I'm really anti-Trump at this point is just the social and economic costs of the shutdowns, um, and what they did to this country. Like
Yeah.
that, I mean, I know people who essentially went all 3 years of law school in lockdown. Who,
Oof.
like, I don't understand how they did it.
Yeah.
Of not being able to interact with anyone or have those arguments and debates in person. Um, but like you see that with younger lawyers, you see that with younger employees out and about, and having seen the workforce change so much because of remote work or like so many people took vacations during the entire COVID era if they had a job where they could work online, where they just
Right.
for 2 to 3 years just checked out and did absolutely nothing.
It's true. All right, let's go through this real fast. Lexi said, but why in Texas's case? So Texas v. Biden with the illegal immigration. I totally interrupted your thought train on that one with the other stuff.
I didn't.
Why doesn't Texas have standing?
I don't know if I read. I don't think I read that case.
Okay. Well, read up on it and let Lexi know why Texas doesn't have standing.
Remind me for this Thursday.
Okay. War Dog Studios says Big Brother doesn't want you saying that, talking about taking up arms. Jake, how about the felonies not overriding the felonies? Feds not overriding to. Oh, no. Okay. I see what you're talking about. So, judge in, I believe it was Louisiana, ruled in favor of a felon possessing a firearm because of New York v. Bruin. And super fucking pumped about that case. And his did you happen to read any of like his response or whatever or in his decision?
No, but So it's the second one that's out there, and I glanced at it, and I'll have to read it more thoroughly. But they're going.
He was so reluctant to make the ruling, so it's an entire diatribe. It's like 70 pages of I don't want to fucking make this decision, but now I have to.
But of like just couching the opinions. But I'm pretty certain that it's only for nonviolent felons, and I think you'll start to see those more often. And it's only nonviolent felons, so don't think like your gun charge is gonna
Your domestic violence.
your DV's definitely not going away anytime ever.
What, I threatened my wife and unborn child with a firearm and I can't have my gun back? What are you talking about?
Nope.
Crazy. And then I guess I didn't actually see this, Jake, and I'm ashamed to admit that. FPC got the 80% lower rule dismissed. Did that happen on like Friday? When did that happen?
Yeah, that's the polymer 80 case they had, I think.
Nice. Tell you what, man, I don't make any money off of it. It's not any sort of like promotional, but for gun organizations that are truly like fighting the fight, Firearms Policy Coalition is the place to put your money. They're doing tons of good legal work to try to get people, try to take the government out of your rights.
Trying to let freedom ring, Heather.
Yeah, great job, Eric. Man, I'm an adult and I struggle with online classes. Our kids were young enough that it wasn't a huge impact, but they are struggling for sure. Lexi said, let's talk about it next Liberty Happy Hour. That's for you, Fox. And then FPC posted it Friday at like 7 p.m. Damn, I missed that one. And I've been offline most of the weekend. So, okay, so just a couple things before Two Truths and a Lie that I want to touch on. First, France is burning to the fucking ground at this point.
Sure is.
Like, real bad. And
real bad.
It's really sad because I was just in the process of looking at possibly taking Ainsley to France for the Olympics.
No.
But that's a big no-go for me now at this point, which you'll be real sad about that. But so on the one hand, obviously, this is a migrant issue. Like, they have allowed illegal immigration to the point where France really has lost its national identity. And we talked about this on Friday night, but just because it's 4th of July weekend and this is Patriots and Petticoats, I just want to ask you guys,
how you couldn't have seen this coming from day one? I don't know.
No, but the United States is very rapidly losing its national identity as well.
Did you know the number one selling beer in America is Modelo?
Modelo, yes, I did. We are... And so the question I think that I pose to you guys is, first of all, do you think it's possible to get our national identity back? Where the youth of the country, the people who are here, whether you are here illegally or not, like whatever, actually assimilating to the national identity of America. I
think ship sailed.
So that's what I was going to ask. Because if you were to like come here where the oldest 4th of July celebration in the history of the United States takes place, the answer would be no. Like, they still read the Declaration of Independence, say the Pledge of Allegiance to music playing in the background right before they set the fireworks off. Like, it's a huge ordeal here. But if I step into, let's say, Louisville, Kentucky, that changes. Like the idea of nationality, national
Citizenship.
yeah.
What
War
it
Dog
means to
says,
be a
I
citizen.
disagree with that. Immigration does not constitute a mostly male fighting age population. That's a soft invasion.
Yes, I
That's
agree.
exactly what that is.
I agree.
Sounds fishy. The whole thing feels too much like a BLM Summer of Love 2020 replay. So you think that the Paris situation is not
They're still doing the Tour de France right now.
Do what?
They're doing the Tour de France right now.
Oh, really?
Well,
Yeah.
What's the update? Because like I would have loved to have covered it for the last 2 days, but certain website decided not to work.
Why is France burning?
I can't tell if I'm just getting a whole bunch of propaganda shit or how bad it really is, because the Tour de France is going right now.
A 17-year-old, to my understanding, migrant was shot and killed by the police.
A criminal.
And I've seen the video footage. It's a guy in his car. The police are trying to, like, I think, get him to roll his window down, and he won't. And the cop points the gun through the window and shoots him in the car. And so there was, I mean, very clearly there was no threat to the officer's life unless he had moved around into the front of the car.
Yeah, but it's also France, so I don't know what their standard of law is and don't care.
Right. Yeah, and that's true too, right? Like I'm not a French citizen. I don't know their law, but if that had happened here in the United States, I imagine the result would have been the same.
Yep.
Well, I mean, we take a dig at Trump and say Trump would just let the protests burn the country down.
Give them room. Let them express themselves.
Well, I know Macron, as of Friday, he had unleashed like 45,000 officers to quell the concern. And I guess I think the police killed another woman today.
You'll have that on these bigger jobs.
So it's it's gonna be interesting.
I'd like
how
to
he
get
deals with it moving forward.
I'd like to get more like real relevant info on what the status of everything is, because it's kind of like just with the Ukraine war where everybody's been posting old footage and a bunch of propaganda crap. And like the last time I went to one of the larger hashtags, it's that street preacher dude in Canada apparently is owning the hashtag. And it's like, well, what the hell does he have to do with what's going on in France? Like, he doesn't know anything. He's just somehow the algorithm's promoting his crap.
I saw a lot of old videos that weren't even France of riots in like South America.
Yep.
Under the Paris hashtag. Yeah. So there's a lot of, I'm not sure what's true and what's not out there.
I've seen some fucking footage where there was fucking 10,000 retweets, and I'm like, that's from a movie. I've watched that movie. That's not France. Like, that movie was in 2008.
And then I also
cars are coming off the fucking deal.
Yeah, I saw an AI. Is that what the lady with the Eiffel Tower behind her, and then a jet flies over, or was that an AI video?
Yeah. That's an AI video.
I thought it was an AI video that they put out, like, and they played that one during the whole Ukraine shit.
Yeah, ridiculous.
It's really hard. When
what
you have
even is reality,
man?
Sorry, Heather.
No, you're fine. But we've had a media that has lied to us about everything for so long that we literally trust absolutely nothing that we see anymore, even if it's the truth. We looked at it. We look at all of it through such a lens of skepticism where we're like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't believe. I mean, look at our 2 Truths and a Lie segment that we do. How many times does everyone get it wrong because
it could all be right?
Yeah.
And then next week it probably is.
Joey said, also remember, guys, we're pirates. War Dog said they've already advised a complete internet blackout and curfew. That's true. I did see today where they were doing like the can't see anything. They've turned everything off for everyone. Andrew Kim said, my point is
Not
that
good.
it could be a story used to incite civil strife, to instigate social change, or, in my opinion, increase centralized control to Macron, which we've already seen him doing over
Macron.
time. It's like Canada. It's the exact same thing.
Everybody's testing the playbook so they can all use it in the West right now.
Well, they got this really big taste of totalitarianism. They got this taste of tyranny through COVID, and they're like, man, I really like that power.
Fuck, that'd be
bring that
nice if we
feeling
could
back.
do this all the time.
Let's just do this from now on. Macron's popularity is down the drain. He may be trying to consolidate control using emergency powers. Smart man, Andrew. I'd say you're probably correct if I'm being honest with you at this point. All right, gentlemen, we are at almost 11 o'clock, so I am going to start Two Truths and a Lie. Let me bring this up.
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies, tell me lies. Oh, no, you can't.
I really
got that shit out of my fucking head.
I love that intro so much.
God, you're a girl.
Okay. Story number 1. Oh, wait. Okay. I apologize. There may be some people here who have not participated in Two Truths and a Lie before. This is a segment to our show. We do this every week where I will read 3 stories. And of those 3 stories, one of them is a lie. You're not allowed to cheat. This is my mom finger. Don't Google it because it's way more fun to see if you don't know or you do know. And then we, not next week, but the week after, we'll be announcing a winner for our quarterly prize contest, which we have not actually chosen what the prize is, but it'll be great when we do. Okay. So you're not my supervisor, Heather.
You're not my dad.
No, it's mom finger.
What did the bagel boss guy say? You're not my dad. You're not my boss. He said a couple of. That was a while ago.
Okay, story number 1. In a somewhat absurd quest for true love, a man has reportedly embarked on a staggering journey, dating a whopping 3,650 women over the course of several decades. Despite his relentless pursuit, the man, known as the serial dater, has unfortunately found himself still single and unable to find a compatible partner. With an unwavering commitment to his mission, this gentleman has embarked on 1 date per day diligently, keeping track of each encounter. From blind dates to online connections, speed dating events, to chance encounters, he left no stone unturned in his search for the perfect match. Friends and family were initially optimistic, convinced that out of the vast pool of potential partners, he would eventually find his soulmate. However, as the number of dates mounted, his search became more quixotic and garnered attention in the media for its sheer absurdity. That's story number 1. Story number 2.
He accidentally dated 4 to 5 relatives.
Story number 2. A poll by a public broadcasting network last month showed that 55% of people were wearing masks just as often now as when government guidance was in place during the pandemic, with just 8% having stopped altogether. Because those people have become so used to wearing face masks during the pandemic, they are now signing up for lessons to teach them how to smile again. While the coverings were already common pre-COVID, with many using them to combat seasonal illnesses and hay fever, their use skyrocketed when it became official government guidance to wear them during the worst of the outbreak. Story number 2. Story number 3. A 2,000-year-old painting shows a distant ancestor to pizza, but the toppings are a little different. The painting was discovered in the ruins of Pompeii, just 14 miles from Naples, where the traditional art of pizza making has been granted UNESCO protection. A 2,000-year-old painting uncovered in Pompeii could show a distant ancestor to the modern pizza, archaeologists have said. The art was discovered on the wall of an ancient house during an excavation, but the food it depicts slightly different from your Friday night takeaway. Which story is the lie? 1, 2, or 3?
I mean,
3,
like
that's too convenient.
one sounds like a shit ton of people on the internet have already done it.
Run the headlines back real quick.
Story number 1. Man attempts to find love, dates 3,650 women, but remains single. Story number 2. People who got used to face masks during COVID are attending smiling lessons. And story number 3. A distant ancestor to pizza shown in 2,000-year-old painting, but toppings are a little different.
Yep, 3.
I'm gonna say 2. I mean, are people? I'm being optimistic and saying 2.
We did a whole on a lady that
Teaches people how to use the phone again.
how to
There's
use
no
it-
way
how to
people are
talk
dumb
on a
enough.
phone at
Oh my
500
God, I
bucks
have
an
a funny
hour.
phone story really fast while people are getting their answers in. So I took the kids to the library, and Ainsley goes to pick up there's an old school payphone which works inside of the library. And she goes to pick it up off of the receiver, and she puts the talk part up to her ear. So it's like a giant antenna. I wish so bad that I had gotten a picture of it because it was hilarious. Oh my God, it was so funny. Okay.
3.
So far, Jake says 2 is the lie. Andrew says 1. War Dog says 3. Lexi says 3. Joey says 2.
I say 3.
What do you say, Fox?
I think 2's fake. Like, are people so dumb that they don't know how to smile?
Were they not smiling under their masks?
They're not just dumb. They
didn't
have to spend money. They're like, we must spend money. We have to consume. Oh, let's learn to
I
smile.
have to pay for a new service that I can tell my friends about. Are you guys doing smiling classes? I feel like it's really helping me.
All right. What's it going to be, Eric? What'd you pick?
3.
Okay.
It's too convenient that the first pizza would be found there.
Okay. Joey said Heather changing mine to 1. Got it. It's in. 2 is foreigner California. Okay. So the lie is number 1.
Oh, damn it.
The man attempting to date the women, that was all made up. That's not true.
But like that. I mean, that story's fake. But I mean,
That could happen.
that's happened.
So number 2, Lexi is actually correct. She said it's either foreign or California. That is fact. It is people in Japan that are actually taking smiling classes.
Oh, yeah, because you
Hey,
could
Wilt
offend somebody.
Chamberlain beat that dating record. Was that or was
And-
those Wilt Chamberlain's numbers that you used, Heather?
I don't
She's
can
not
make that
familiar with
number
his
up.
conquests.
know. I know who Wilt Chamberlain is. I did not know that.
That he was a man whore
Yeah.
or an NBA player? I mean, whatever.
There must be a pretty
think they're
significant delay because
interchangeable.
I'm still seeing like responses coming in. Okay.
Now they know the answer. Are they all 1?
Well, Joey changed his to number 1.
That sucker, sly sucker.
And Joey is currently in the running to win. And if I allow the change, we're gonna have to take a vote. Joey will then be in the lead against Jake. So
Yeah.
You changed. You
We're-
said you said you had it. You
You
go,
said
I got
one.
it.
did I
No.
say it beforehand? Okay.
Yeah, you did.
No leniency for the guy who like
No, he changed it
tells
beforehand. I couldn't
everyone
remember
they're
if I said it
furries.
before or after, so it's fine.
Yep. And
Joey is in the lead now. I have to
Yep.
mark it down.
it's Jake's fault, actually. He was on 2, and then Jake yelled at him for picking
Rigged
2, and he switched it
elections.
to 1.
Yeah,
It's like-
Joey can't pick the same one.
Yeah,
Joey
that
Googled
was
it.
that was a baller move. That was a baller move, Joey. I think there was a little trickery there. He got
Baited him
snuck
into
in.
it. He gave him the old Princess Bride. Like,
Yep.
all right, I'll just take 2.
He
2
said, I
then.
did not. He is a good
Or
Catholic
one.
boy. He would do no trickery.
Yeah. If you look at him, he is adamant. I did not Google it.
I told Joey
it's
he
way
could
more
come out.
fun if you don't. It's way more fun to see if you can figure it out rather than getting the answer.
I invited Joey to come out to Wisconsin and hang out.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Hopefully
He'll
he'll come
be
do
at-
this from the studio sometime.
Indiana Apocalypse this year. So if you
Nice.
guys come, you can meet him.
What days is that?
It's
October.
October 5th through 8th.
First weekend in October, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Have you checked the football schedule? Who's playing who? I mean, is this
Everybody.
one?
Everybody playing then.
With that, oh wait, hold on. Speaking of Princess Bride, you know the scene where they drink the wine with the poison? I did not realize this until it was brought up recently. The theory is the other guy died because he inhaled the poison, not drinking. Blew my mind. That's true. The poison, when he has him smell it, he said, "You know what that smell is?" And he said it's odorless. At moment is the time that he actually killed him. There's no poison in the cups.
What?
You just
Yeah.
blew my boy's mind, man.
No way.
Totally. Look up the poison that he tells him.
Oh my goodness. I
Changing
believe
your
it.
entire dynamic of Princess Bride on a Sunday night.
Wild.
Orthodox. All right, guys, that is going to be the end of Patriots and Petticoats. First, I want to say thank you, Fox, for joining us. I always
Thanks
love
for hanging
your
out, brother.
Hell
We
yeah.
appreciate you.
input, your insight. Boys, thank you for fighting and battling through the horrific internet
We will not be
situation.
silenced.
But I was going to say, like, it seems like it kind of like got better, so that's good.
Yep. See?
Fox, where can people find you, or do you want them to find you?
I don't want to be found.
Yeah. I
kinda
figured.
get it.
We do appreciate you, though. Honestly,
There's-
it's awesome when
Thank-
you come on.
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Love you guys. You guys take care. Have a good night. Gotta find the clip. Peace
Happy
out.
See you
birthday.
guys.